They promised normalcy and gave us Transgender Visibility Day on Easter Sunday.
Bottom line to every single thing that's going on in this great country today is one thing. We become totally unhinged if Donald Trump is not elected in November.
There was a lot of stuff you can't really try to fact check. There were personal stories, general praise of Trump, broad denunciations of Biden, subjective accusations that Biden was personally responsible for drug overdose deaths, which I think we should note rose under President Trump as well. But there was also some significant inaccuracy we can check. Arizona U.S. Senate candidate Kari Lake made a wildly false claim that her Democratic opponent, Ruben Gallego, voted to allow illegal immigrants to vote in this election. That's a brazen distortion of a recent House vote on voter registration. But nonetheless, Republicans, including former President Trump, keep pushing this notion that Biden has crushed U.S. oil and gas production. Trump sometimes says Biden has ended it entirely, and all this stuff is not close to true.
I mean, come on, what did you think would happen? You gather this many Republicans under one roof and expect nothing but the truth? I mean, you get a better chance of keeping Donnie awake for the rest of the convention. The RNC has been everything one would come to expect from the MAGA contingent. Fear-mongering, vitriol, and T-list celebrities, I mean, that's still pretty kind, getting on stage to call out corruption. And narrator's note, by the way, the parents of the person speaking here are serving time for tax fraud.
We need to rise above the persecution. We need to hold rogue prosecutors accountable. There should be no immunity. We need to expose the Democrats' corruption, and better yet, the Biden family's corruption. And guess what? I know just the man for that job. Donald J. Trump has only one conviction that matters, and that is his conviction to make America great again. Thank you, and God bless America.
But who needs pesky details when one can blame Biden for them not abiding by Trump's tax code? Anyway, with bigger lies comes bigger responsibility, as CNN's Daniel Dale kicked off his daily fact check segment with a 4-minute stinger, calling out the plethora of misinformation spread at the convention.
Anderson, there was a lot of stuff you can't really try to fact check. There were personal stories, general praise of Trump, broad denunciations of Biden, subjective accusations that Biden was personally responsible for drug overdose deaths, which I think we should note rose under President Trump as well. But there was also some significant inaccuracy we can check. Arizona U.S. Senate candidate Kari Lake made a wildly false claim that her Democratic opponent, Ruben Gallego, voted to allow illegal immigrants to vote in this election. That's a brazen distortion of a recent House vote on voter registration requirements. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas claimed with no evidence at all that Democrats deliberately let in illegal immigrants to somehow get their votes. Non-citizens cannot legally vote, and the data shows almost never do. And I thought it was notable that some of the most significant false or misleading claims tonight came from members of the House Republican leadership. Listen to what GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik and House Speaker Mike Johnson said about violent crime.
Biden's violent crime crisis, fueled by Democrats' pro-criminal sanctuary cities and defund the police policies like we have seen in my home state of New York.
We can't survive the dramatic increases in violence, crime, and drugs that the Democrats' policies have brought upon our community.
I'll do it again. This claim that there have been dramatic increases in violence and crime under Biden is false. In fact, both violent crime and property crime have fallen under President Biden, and there have been big declines over the last year and a half. Preliminary figures from the FBI show that violent crime is down roughly 6% in 2023, and then it dropped by a staggering 15% in the first quarter of 2024. The declines in murder in particular were even bigger. And so now, key fact here, murder in particular and violent crime in general are both below where they were in 2020, Trump's last year in office. Now, Congresswoman Stefanik's claim of a Biden violent crime crisis is subjective, I guess, but she certainly did not note that Trump had a violent crime crisis when he had worse numbers. I'm going to cough. Now, I'll caution again, this is preliminary data. A big chunk of local communities haven't submitted their numbers yet, so the precise extent of the decline in violent crime is to be determined, but it's clearly falling and not rising. And I also want to address, Anderson, a claim from House Majority Leader Steve Scalise on the Biden administration's record on U.S. energy production. Take a listen.
Let's talk energy. They've eroded the American energy dominance that President Trump delivered. We will end the Democrats' assault on American energy once and for all.
This claim about a Biden-era Democratic assault on American energy is misleading at very best. While it's true that Biden is pushing for a transition to renewables, the U.S. under Biden is producing more crude oil than any country ever has. It is a fact. The U.S. is setting fossil fuel world records under this administration. The U.S. produced a global record 12.9 million barrels of crude oil per day in 2023, easily beating the Trump-era high of about 12.3 million barrels. And Scalise also spoke of U.S. energy exports under Biden. Well, U.S. crude exports in 2023 were also the highest on record for anybody. Now, we should be clear here not to suggest these records are being set because of President Biden, who certainly has taken a bunch of steps the fossil fuel industry, oil companies don't like. These are market-driven increases, a lot of them caused by improvements in fracking, horizontal drilling technology. But nonetheless, Republicans, including former President Trump, keep pushing this notion that Biden has crushed U.S. oil and gas production. Trump sometimes says Biden has ended it entirely, and all this stuff is not close to true. Anderson?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Now listen, I don't expect you guys to tune in to every speech at the RNC. It's a tough watch. But I will tell you that there's a through line dedicated to demonizing immigrants, painting them with the broadest of brushes. Everything from criminals to rapists and the need for mass deportation. And this is from the same people clutching their pearls as they tried to blame Democratic rhetoric for last week's assassination attempt. The same people coddling those who chanted "Hang Mike Pence" while storming the Capitol are now up in arms about political rhetoric.
But nobody who's being an honest broker can possibly believe that the Democratic rhetoric is the problem here. So if the issue is that we're saying all the time that he's like Hitler and he's a threat to democracy, and by the way, J.D. Vance has also said that he's like Hitler, and I guess he's redeemed now. But Donald Trump sent a fundraising email just last week that said Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. And only one of these candidates has inspired people who sent pipe bombs to leading Democrats across the country, who has inspired mass shooters. Talk about firing up the base. Donald Trump has been doing that since 2016. Remember when he said the Second Amendment people could take care of it? When he was talking about Hillary Clinton abolishing the Second Amendment and she'll get to appoint judges. He talked about, remember that congressman from Montana who body slammed a reporter and he said, he's my type. He retruthed or whatever it was, a video of Joe Biden hogtied. Just back in
that was hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Your
hilarious.
examples are so tiny.
No, they're
We're
not.
talking about an attempted assassination that left a man dead. A shooter groomed and incentivized by a drumbeat of demonization.
You have no idea what
can
that
call people. You can call people.
Donald Trump ran for office in 2016 telling protesters at rallies to punch people who pay their bills. As president, he played a clip of a guy saying the only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. He said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. He called Nazis at Charlottesville. No, let me finish. You're interrupting me, Piers. I need to finish my sentence as you get to finish yours. I'm on your show. I'm a guest. I'm answering. Let me get to I'm pointing out that it's not two sides. What Donald Trump has said, your viewers need to hear this because you're not telling them this. Trump spent his entire presidency inciting violence against Ilhan Omar, George Soros, multiple members of Congress, people of color, right? He left office, right, having incited an insurrection which you condemned. He told them to go fight like hell. He said Mark Milley should be executed, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
What's this got to do with my question?
He mocked Paul Pelosi. I'm getting to it. He mocked Paul Pelosi for being hammered in the head.
He was wrong to do that. That was outrageous. To be executed.
It's not about whether he was wrong, Piers. I can give you dozens of actual violent quotes from Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar. You can't give me those quotes. Can you get back to my question? Biden, Pelosi, Jeffries. No, answer my question. Where did Joe Biden say the only good Republican is a dead Republican?
Mehdi.
But it's not both sides, Piers. You can't deflect, Piers. The viewers are watching.
Your side has literally spent 8 years calling him Hitler. It's ridiculous to say there's no both sides.
We've already discussed the Hitler point. Where have they incited violence? Where did Biden say go kill people?
And this is their unifying message. But most people paying attention know that the Republican Party are never going to unify the country. Their entire agenda is based around fear-mongering. They need division in order to thrive. And by the way, since so much of their time on day 2 was spent on soaring crime, I think it's also important to note that recent FBI statistics show a historic drop in violent crime under President Biden. That's right, crime has plummeted under Biden after spiking under Trump.
Look at what has happened with the homicide rate. In 2020, when Donald Trump was president, he ushered in, under his presidency, the largest ever one-year jump, spiking 30%. By 2023, the homicide rate had tumbled 19% to 5.3 homicides per 100,000 people. New data from the FBI shows the rate continues to drop off dramatically, down another 26% in the first quarter of 2024 from the same time period last
year. But again, who needs facts when one can fearmonger in between profound speeches from rapper Amber Rose?
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.